snacks.
What it do, peoples? It's your boy Jokes. I got the homie Marcus in tow with me, and this is the brand new show called The Finisher. The Finisher. And here is us just here to talk about wrestling. Things from the past, things from the present. Right here, there's no limits on the things that we're going to talk about when it comes time for wrestling. So I thought to kind of kick things off, I figured some of you guys out there are probably familiar with us already, but I don't know if you necessarily know how deep our love for wrestling goes and where it came from and all those type of things. So I thought this would be a good way to intro this show off and kind of just get to know us and what it is, what wrestling really means to us. What do you think about that, Mark? You think that's a good way for us to kick things off?
I feel like that's an amazing way to kick things off.
So let's just start. Like, for you, how did you get into wrestling? How did wrestling become a thing for you?
Wrestling became a thing for me back when I was like real young and we had just gotten cable, and so I never knew what TNT was, and so that was when I was first introduced to like Nitro, and I was just like, oh, this is pretty lit. As a kid, I was just like, oh, they're hitting people with steel chairs and all the shenanigans was going on. I was just like, wow, my poor little brain could not like understand back at that time. Was like, oh my gosh, like they're killing this guy, and it's just like, but he's not getting arrested. Like, what is happening? And so it was like at that moment I was just like hooked, and then growing up, actually remembering like, okay, there's something called storylines, and then dynamics, and then all the twists and turns. It was like good guys versus bad guys, or bad guys versus bad guys, like factions, and it was a lot. So that's how I got into it, was watching Nitro. Fun times.
So you're right there, kind of where I was. Like I was first exposed. WCW was my exposure into wrestling. At the time, it was my mom's boyfriend who actually got me into it. Like he had it on television. You know, I was like, you know, what in the world is going on here? And this was around the time when Scott Hall, Kevin Nash just came to the company. So this was like 96 probably when I was first introduced to it all. So kind of the same thing for you. Like these dudes, like they're just like, they're assaulting each other like on TV right now. I was like, is this okay? Can this really happen? And no one's saying anything about it. But for some reason it was like you just couldn't take your eyes off of it. It was like these two dudes are just beating the holy hell out of each other, and you're like, okay, so technically one's a good guy, one's a bad guy. And I don't remember the first match I watched, but I think it was they were both good. They were both faces. We'll use the term, of course, here for it. So it was just seeing actual competitors just go at it for it. I don't think it was for a championship or nothing like that. But there was a couple, you know, as you watch it, you hear them say, you know what, I'm coming after you next week or something like that. So I'm like, wait, so I was like, this is a weekly thing? Like it's like, yeah, it comes on twice a week, you know, and they just do these different things with him. And I was like, okay, you know what? I think I'm gonna stay tuned into this and go to the next one, because during that time, you know, for me, young kid or whatever, like Power Rangers was my thing. So it was like that was the good guys versus the bad guys fighting each other. So there was those similarities that I could see between the two things that were going on for it. And then from there, it just became like I just got hooked, and I couldn't stop week after week after week after week, and just continuously going through it. And as a young kid, you know, I thought WCW was it. Like I thought that was the only wrestling,
that's just the
only thing. And so once you started learning, you know, there's other shows and things that came on television. Like I think the first thing that actually tipped me off to it was a spoiler. I think it was, I don't know if it was this, when WCW spoiled Mankind winning the championship. That was one of the first times I was like, wait, who's Mankind? Like, obviously it has been on WCW, whatnot ever. And I think that may have been one of my first turn-ons to realize that there was other wrestling outside of WCW. Because by all means, a lot of people, you know, WWF was the beginning, the know-all. This was everything that I think, especially for people that grew up in the early ages. Like, I didn't know about NWA. I didn't know about any of those other promotions that were out there for it. But then that just opened the door. Like, and I think it just became that hobby that, you know, you just couldn't put down. But for you, what would you say, like, what's been some moments or some things that have like just resonated in your head throughout the years that like they just live rent free up there and like you just can't, like, you'll never part ways with?
Every time I see Jeff Hardy do a Swanton bomb, just like instant like memories, because for those of you who don't know, my brother is also a part of our wrestling community. His name is Sean. And when we were younger, we used to pretend we were like Team Extreme and did all of the crazy stunts and antics. And even my cousins, like, they're not even huge wrestling fans, but even they, like, it reached them to the point where, like, I remember one time when I was younger, I get bullied by my cousins when I was younger. I'm not even going to fake. One of them put me, I kid you not, in the Hart Foundation sharpshooter, and the other person put me in a crossface. And I was just like, as a kid, like, they wasn't doing it like fake, like how you're supposed to like sell it and be like, oh, ouch, it hurts. Like, no, I was I was in the real deal, like, legs up, back all the way, like, contorted, and I was just like, this hurts, but it's fun. And then, like, after, like, they just, like, fake choke slams and stunners and rock bottoms and people's elbows, like, rent free. All of that from just Jeff Hardy being Jeff Hardy.
Hey, I'll say similar here. Like, my dad, once he got on board with wrestling, you know, it was kind of the same thing as a kid. Downstairs in the basement, we had, like, there was a couple tables. We had, like, air mattress, sofa. So I would blow up, like, the air mattress, take the cushions off the sofa, put on the air mattress, like, extra cushion, and then, like, just jumping off the table. And like granted, probably should not have been doing that at all as a young kid, but it was those similar things. Like, you saw it on TV, and I was like, hey, Dad, can I just jump off the table onto, like, the air mattress? You know, initially, you know, he was kind of like I don't know. It's like, it's cool. I got the air mattress. I put the extra cushions on there, so it'll break my fall. And, you know, not thinking as a kid, like, you know, this is an air mattress. This show's not meant to withstand, like, just jumping and bouncing on it and all that type of stuff. I would say that was probably some of my favorite memories. Same thing. I used to use my dad. I was like, hey, Dad, look, let me put you in the figure 4 leg lock. It just looked at me like, okay, I guess. I guess. It's the same thing. I would do it, you know, it's like, oh yeah, this is all right. And then when you put pressure on it, it's just like, whoa, wait. I'm like, yeah, Dad, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt. And as a kid, you know, I'm just like, Dad, you can take this. I'm like, just figure 4 and do it. But, like, some of those memories, and then my first event, for those that are from the DMV area, you're probably familiar with the Verizon Center, or Capital One Arena now is what it's called. And
DMV stands for DC, Maryland, Virginia, not your motor vehicle association place where you go get your tags. So let's clear that up for those who aren't from the DMV, because that is a question that will get asked a lot. They'd be like, why are you guys talking about the motor vehicles? We're not talking about motor vehicles.
We're not talking about that. So
unless we're talking about the Undertaker, then yes, and Stone Cold's little RV that he likes to go around, his ATV, but that's another conversation.
But before it was Capital One Arena and Verizon Center, it was called the MCI Center. Like, this was early, like, mid 90s, late 90s, early 2000s before they made the change. Starrcade frequent there pretty frequently when it came time for the pay-per-view. And I went to one of them. It was me, a couple friends, and their dad. They had extra tickets, and they had learned, you know, I was a wrestling fan. It was like, hey, you wanna go see this wrestling event that's coming to MCI? And, you know, I don't know what I thought at that time. Like maybe I thought that the events were just like in one single location that they did week after week after week. And this was me first learning that no, they travel, it comes to your area and all this. And I was like, yo, I'm super hyped right now. So went to Starrcade, and I remember Sting being there, Goldberg was there at a point in time. So this was probably, oh God, I can't even. It had to have been, it was late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere around there. It was before the name change, but that was my first live event going to. So, and as a kid, that just absolutely resonated with me. Like, wow, I'm not watching this on TV now. And we had really good seats. We weren't like first row ringside, but we were like third, fourth row almost. So, you know, it was a different experience being right in the midst of it and not just sitting at home watching it on TV. And one of the first questions I asked, you know, guys, I was like, why don't we hear the commentators talking? Like, this was before knowing that the commentators were just for us in TV and watching, and that you actually didn't get that there. So that was that learning, you know, those learning pieces that you start picking up on when you was young. But I will never forget some of those first instances of like being able to go to an event, seeing the superstars live. Like, it was just an amazing experience. Like, I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't become a wrestling fan, like, or been exposed to the world of wrestling. Obviously I have tons of hobbies and tons of fandoms, so, you know, I would have had things, but I don't know, wrestling is just one that I feel like I can't imagine myself not being a part of it. It's just absolutely crazy. And then learning wrestling existed ages and eons before I was even born. It's like, you start looking at some of those things, like Mom, who necessarily she really wasn't a wrestling fan, but she knew of stars from like the early 70s and the 80s. You know, I would hear names and things like that. She's like Ric Flair, for example. She was like, oh, Ric Flair? It's like, yeah, he was wrestling way back when I was younger. And, you know, I'm just like, Ric Flair, how do you know about Ric Flair? And how did he wrestle way back then? I think this was before I had the time. I don't know. I didn't know how time worked. I don't know. It was weird. But to hear her talk about some of these stars that were around ages ago and then seeing them during my time was real cool. So like, I just can't imagine never picking up and being a wrestling fan. Like, I just feel like maybe somewhere down the road I would have still picked it up if I wasn't exposed to it early on, but like, it's just a part of me now. It's just etched into my DNA.
Yeah. Like, I remember going to my first live show, which was during the whole Nexus storyline.
Okay, and actually, that was your first?
Yeah, that was my actual first, like, live, like, actually being aired on TV, like, event. And and just seeing, I was just like, yo, this is lit. Like, ever since then, it was just like every chance I got, I'm gonna go. Like, if it's in the budget and everything's taken care of, oh yeah, we going. Like, no questions asked. And I got a shout out to my homie Freddie, because he always somehow got the hookup on tickets. So like, we were going like pretty regularly. Every time they came through into DC, we were there. If they was in Baltimore, we was there. And it was just a reoccurring cycle. And I'll never forget, like, seeing actual finishers like live versus just like all like it's different, like when you're watching it on the screen, even when the games came out, like even like seeing them in the game, but like seeing it live and like the reaction, like the actual reaction of the crowd, because you're in the crowd, so you're a part of that magic. And then people doing waves and volleyballs being like thrown in the stands and stuff, and it's amazing times. I definitely recommend at least going to one, not even it doesn't even have to be a live event, just one actual wrestling match. Just like in person, just it could be at your local area. It doesn't have to be from a major promotion. I just recommend you go to a promotion and just absorb that experience, because each promotion experience is different, but it all has that uniformity. So I definitely recommend that.
You know, I like that how you brought that up. If it's even not being like, you know, the big companies now, your WWEs, your AEWs, indie promotions, like, honestly produce some of the best talent that you can see. And these big companies, of course, they come to these events as well too, to see the talent, to try to recruit and do things like that. So for us here, you know, Maryland Championship Wrestling, for you folks that didn't know, like, so Ring of Honor, now before Ring of Honor was as big as it is now, of course, Tony Khan now purchasing Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor was always Baltimore. That was the city. The only way you were going to see that is if you came to Baltimore. I would say they grew. They eventually got the TV deal. Like, they did those. So, like, this was a company that I got to see kind of work its way from being just indie. I don't even want to say it's indie. Like, I don't even know how you want to call it. Seeing them perform.
I want to call them like an indie circuit. I would just say they're. If WWE was like A, then they were like B. Like they were like a solid like B plus. And like then you have New Japan, which is like supersedes WWE. To me, they're S class. Like they're in a whole other nother league. And then you had, this is back when there were actually circuits. For those of you who don't know, wrestling operated in circuits, so they had different territories. You had Northeastern territory, you had the Florida territory, Midwest, West. For those of you that don't know, until like they all just kind of merged and got bought out by other companies and things of that nature.
Yeah, because like all these indie they put on some excellent shows, and never to take away from any of the talent that are on these big promotions or whatnot ever. On these indie circuits, these guys, they love what they do. They don't necessarily get the TV time to be on front of like the whole entire country. They don't get those type of things, but they go out there and put those show on because they really enjoy it. And you can see that. Don't get me wrong. There's folks on these big promotions that absolutely love what they do as well too. But to work your normal day job, get off, and then it's like, hey, I got this show I gotta go to. Like I'm the guy. Like I got this main event match. I'm performing. Some people didn't necessarily understand that, I feel like, when they would see, especially when their coworkers probably come in bruised up afterwards, like, yo, what in the world what are you doing? Like, hey, I'm wrestling for this promotion. I'm one of the top guys over here. I'm doing such and such. Like, those are some conversations that I feel like would be very, very interesting. And like, as you said, some another favorite moments, like, I think of as a young whippersnapper, I guess, as somebody would probably say.
That's a grasshopper.
One thing that always lived rent free in my head. I went to SmackDown one year, and this was when Vince McMahon opened the show, and he was calling out Stone Cold. Like, this was during the time of like their feud still being a thing, and at that time, I believe it was Verizon Center. I don't know. I don't know which one it was. But all the lights went out in the arena. And at first, you thought it was like, oh, what happened? But then all of a sudden you hear people like super cheering, and Stone Cold is just walking down the ramp in just total darkness for him to show up behind Vince. And then of course all the lights come on and his music hits, and Vince has no idea this dude is in the ring. Like, that was as younger kid, as you see, it's like, oh, turn around, Vince, knowing what the end result was going to be. But like, there was some amazing moments that I was able to actually see live. And just like you said, Marcus, I implore you, if you're not a wrestling fan, or I'm gonna say if you are a wrestling fan and you haven't managed to go to a live event, I highly recommend that you go to one. I know it doesn't really make a difference where you go to. The atmosphere that you will be in is one that you will absolutely love.
There's nothing like seeing an RKO live.
There's nothing like seeing an RKO live. I've seen a few of those, and it's absolutely,
it's glorious.
It's absolutely. I see what you're doing there. And talking about that, who would you say? And I'm gonna make this a twofold one. So it's it'll give you the ability to give you two answers. Who would you say is your favorite wrestler, both past and present? I'll let you be able to get one of each of them in there.
All right, past, hands down, The Undertaker, The Phenom, Big Evil. Like, in my opinion, he has one of the most long-standing gimmicks and actually worked the gimmick, like made that gimmick work for him. And like his presence, he's always like displayed leadership ability, fluidity, is always changing up his wrestling style periodically over the years, and just adapting to the times.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's my favorite past wrestler. Current wrestler, hands down, Kenny Omega. Like, my man Kenny Omega, for those of you who don't know, is a wrestler part of the AEW franchise. He used to be Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling. There's an actual, if you can find it, there's a clip of where he was in OVW for like a small amount of time. So he was a part of the WWF brand at the time, for a little bit. And like in-ring ability, very technical, very good on the mic. Like, if you haven't heard a promo until you hear a Kenny Omega promo. And then the fact that like he's also into like video games and anime and manga. He's just like a current relatable character. Not saying that there's no one else that does that, but like hands down, Kenny Omega is just like, he's funny. Like he's the only person I know that will dress up in like a Mario outfit and wrestle in a Mario outfit. Like, you don't see that often. Like you hear people say, I love wrestling. He loves wrestling. Like, lives, breathes wrestling as if it was like, how can I relate this? PewDiePie playing Minecraft. Like, that's the level of dedication he has. So those are my two, past and present.
Dig it. For me, past, I have to give it to Stone Cold. Like, Stone Cold Steve Austin, first seeing him, he was always beating up the Boss. So, you heard probably growing up, you probably heard like parents or like, those older just like, I hate going to work. I hate my boss. Like, you hear those type of things, and you get to see this dude on TV week after week after week, just absolutely, I don't like you. I don't care that you run this place. You're going to acknowledge me for who I am. And just be an absolute, just, I don't even, what do you want to call it? Just more than just a badass. Like, he did not like authority. And he did what he needed to do to get the victory and do all these things. Like, I just love the character he always portrayed. And then throughout the years, kind of like how you say The Undertaker, you see certain characters evolve and change and have to adapt to what the time frame is and all that. Austin is another one of those that kind of transcended ages and years of wrestling. Loved him as a face, loved him as a heel, whichever way he went. Like, you were supposed to hate the heel, but you couldn't always necessarily hate Stone Cold Steve Austin just because of who he is. Like, always going and just beating up somebody because you know what he could. And that was just the Austin way of everything for it. But to see him cross, just like Undertaker, decades on decades, it's just an amazing thing. And then currently right now, someone that I would say currently has been around for a while, that's my favorite. I gotta have it in the back right now, is Randy Orton. Like,
happy birthday, Randy. Belated.
Happy birthday. I know it's a little bit afterwards, but Randy is someone that I've grown up with, that I would say his early WWE days, you know, before the Legend Killer or any of those type of things, just him being the young new kid in there. Of course, second generation wrestler, so he's been around the business for a very long time, and it was just something that I always loved about Randy's presentation, even from the early days. You know, having the cocky attitude, just always being the guy that no matter what, he wanted to make sure you knew that he was there to stay. And to see him go from, you know, small victories to eventually, you know, winning like the Intercontinental Championship, joining Evolution, which of course he joined the likes of Triple H, Batista, Ric Flair, along those greats, like two of the four of them currently Hall of Famers right now. Batista probably eventually will become a Hall of Famer. Randy Orton, sure as fire,
guaranteed Hall of Famer.
Sure as fire, when his time comes that he decides to step away, he is going to be a bona fide Hall of Famer. Moving on from Evolution, when he became a part of the Authority, you know, still partnered with Triple H and doing the whole entire thing. But I feel Randy's best work came as when he was a heel. Like, you're supposed to hate him, but I couldn't hate Randy Orton. I absolutely loved everything that he did. And then transcending the wrestling side, RKO, of course, is his finishing maneuver. The RKO ended up becoming a pop culture,
the meme of legends,
whatever you want to say for it, that everybody started doing it outside. Like, it was absolutely amazing. His run now, like, it's a different Orton, and I just love that you can see that this dude is just like enjoying the time that he has on the show. Right? Him and Riddle, the two of them together, is initially when they paired them, I was kind of like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if this is going to work. But damn it, do these two dudes work?
Bro.
Like, I absolutely love what the two of them are doing. I hope before, you know, Randy decides to hang the boots up, I don't want to see RK Bro break up, but at the same time, I do want to see Randy and Riddle have a one-on-one feud with each other. I feel like the promos that the two of them could cut against each other would be absolute fire. Riddle has proved that he can fight in the ring. He can be a singles competitor, a tag competitor. I love it. But anytime that Randy Orton has been in the mix, it's always been fire. And I can't think of a time that I didn't enjoy him on television. Even during the time where, I guess we say, WWE kind of got, I guess you could word stale at one point, and it just didn't seem like it was doing anything major. I still always enjoy having Randy on screen whenever he was there. And I think he's definitely one of those that got me, because there was a point in time where I fell out of wrestling, and I honestly, I just feel like as I was growing up, other interests, other things, and I just stopped watching. And then randomly, you know what, I just started watching the show once again, and Randy Orton was still there compared to when I was watching it, and he was still one of my favorite things to watch on TV. So to this day, Randy Orton, current, even, I can't say, I mean, you can say past technically, but we're in that kind. Randy Orton is my current go-to right now. So,
okay. So I have a question since you brought up Randy Orton. When Randy Orton retires, do you think, seeing as he has teamed up with Riddle, do you think he will allow Riddle to continue using the RKO cutter?
Oh yeah. He'll let him keep using that. I feel like that's kind of the same way Seth uses the pedigree still a little bit. He doesn't use it as like his main move, but I feel like that would be a nice little pass. And of course, the cutter is, I don't want to say a generic move, but it is one that a lot of wrestlers use. Obviously, they don't call it the RKO, but there's that little extra flair that Randy Orton puts on it, and Riddle has kind of embodied along the side of him as well too. So I think when that time comes, he'll let him keep the RKO.
I just find it interesting that for those of you who've seen their tag team entrance, whenever they're in tag team competition, of course, Randy Orton's, one of his nicknames is the Viper. You see the Golden Viper. When you see Riddle's, and it's actually a green mamba.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you that don't know, a green mamba is no different than a black mamba, except it's green on the outside. So I find that very interesting, seeing as Riddle used to be a mixed martial arts UFC guy, and actually pairing him, like they could have choose like a mongoose or anything else, and it would have made sense. But then it was like thinking back, just like looking at it, and it's just like, that's a green mamba. I see what they did there.
It made sense. Like give him like, so they'll have that like that similar chemistry on screen when it comes time for it. Like we haven't seen him like acknowledge himself as like the mom or anything like that. I think eventually maybe we'll see them kind of give him one of those type of names for it. But like yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Clearly the little pigeons be flying when he be kicking off. I was just like, that's not very Viper like.
That whole 3D thing, like that was like one day they just put that. Let's just start putting that in there.
Like, all right, everyone gets 3D effects instead of pyro. And I was just like, no, give me pyro.
Like, and we did have that era where pyro disappeared from wrestling, like, at least WWE days. Like it was weird. They spend
all the money on wrestler contracts, and well, actually, I can't say wrestler contracts because they be letting people go like left, right, and center, like it's candy. Like if y'all don't know, if y'all weren't around, like there was a time in World Wrestling Entertainment history where every week at least 5 to 10 people got released every week. And that went on for like months. Just randomly. Like people you would never expect to be on the list. And no good luck in your future endeavors tweet. None of that. It was just like, alright, these people are gone.
Yeah, I think that for us, that's going to be a topic on the show at one of these shows, is talking about the future endeavors and the people leaving the company in droves, in armies and things. Like we're gonna talk about that because like there was a time like I didn't want to start getting attached to anybody because it was like I don't know if they're gonna be like, here next week.
Got killed out here. It was like no one is safe.
And I was scared in a minute, but you know, I think that's definitely going to be a topic that we're going to discuss. But I think that's pretty solid what we got. So like that's just a little bit of info on us. Like we've been like, for all my time that I've known Marcus, we've both been wrestling fans. And that's been some years now.
Oh yes.
And I would say there's definitely like we've both been to events since then. You know, as adults now and going to events, it can be a different experience. Like finally was able to go to a WrestleMania live, and necessarily as a kid that wasn't going to be something that I was going to actually be able to fulfill. But after the one thing I will say, you know, they say don't grow up too quick. Don't grow up too quick. You know, there's some things that I'm happy that I was able to grow up and do, but then there's the sides that kind of like, oh, I wish I was still a kid. But being able to go to said events now and not have to worry about it, it's just absolutely amazing.
One of my goals now is to go to WrestleMania where Stone Cold is there, meet Stone Cold, and have him sign his own IPA beer. That has now like been added to my list of things that I must do. As I have a wrestling fan list. All right, meet Kenny Omega, meet the Young Bucks, meet Cody Rhodes. Like, not Stardust, Cody Rhodes, not Stardust, because that I was just like, yo, are you ever gonna? I remember I asked him, like, why are you still Stardust? And he was just like, I can't answer that, kid. Now, I was just like, okay, then. Well, good luck.
I feel you on that. Yeah, I still have a list of people that I would love to meet, and I think opportunities, especially now. I love New Japan Pro Wrestling, and now they're starting to make that big break over here in the States.
Buy your tickets now. There's a event coming this month in May. Buy your tickets now. They're still cheap here in DC. This is the plug. This is the plug portion of the show. Buy your tickets. Buy your merch. There's also a AEW happening in Baltimore. Buy your tickets. Buy your merch.
I think that don't sold out. If I'm not mistaken, I think the AEW don't sold out. Because that was right after.
Hey, I'm on Ticketmaster right now.
Because right after they announced that they purchased Ring of Honor, like, I feel like more people went and started buying the tickets for it because they knew that probably the Ring of Honor and AEW folks going to be there together. I think that joint is, if it ain't, you probably can get them, what do they call it? Platinum official seats, whatever the resale ones are.
I'm just gonna let you guys know the tickets for the New Japan Pro Wrestling here in the capital is only $35 per seat, and they're pretty good seats. So I'm just letting y'all know, if you don't have $35 to buy tickets, you're trash, Brock, and your pictures are fake.
I would say, hey, if you guys haven't been exposed to New Japan, I would highly recommend grabbing tickets and going to the events if you're in the area. If you're willing to come out of the area, this is going to be a pretty solid show because they are bringing their heavy hitters over here for it. Highly recommend it. So with that being said, I think we hit our finish. I think we can end this. I think we're at the end now here.
$29 tickets for the AEW Dynamite Rampage for May 4th, 7 p.m. $29.
Oh, they're still there?
There are tickets everywhere. Tickets everywhere. Buy your tickets now. This is, again, promo of the day. Buy your merch. Buy your tickets.
Is that going to be a day? Promo of the day. Marcus with the promo of the day. I dig it. Guys, we're going to be bringing this to you very frequently now, but the thing is, we want your input as well too. So topics, things that you want to discuss on here, let us know. Drop it in the comments, send us messages, wherever you want to do. Let us know what you want to talk about, and for some of those topics, if you want, we would love to have you on here with us so you can share your opinions on it. The finisher, as of right now, is here to stay, and it is not going anywhere. We're going to be having these wrestling conversations. We'll use the finisher. We'll be making our predictions for certain shows like we've been doing in the past. We'll talk the events and talk about the outcomes and things that are going to be about them. And we're just going to talk about wrestling as a whole. Like, we don't want to limit this to just the current events that are going on. We want to talk about past things that have happened, things that you're hoping to see. We want to open this up to be bigger than just the current events. But this is just a little small piece so you can get to know us. So make sure you're following Loading Snacks, because of course that's where we're going to post this at 90% of the time. Of course, we'll post it on our personal pages as well too. But as you see it, drop in the comments what you guys want to talk about, because we want this to be a big thing to influence and have with you guys as well too. This is a part of the community that we want to build when it comes time for wrestling. We have our wrestling channel on Facebook. If you do see this, make sure we'll put the link in the actual description for it so you can click on it and join us. But we want to grow this new wrestling community as much as we can, because it's something that we love, and we know there's people out there as well that love it just as much as we do, and we want you in this circle with us as well too. But until then, homie Marcus, this has been Jokes, the Finisher,
Trinity G.
We'll catch you on the next episode.
Peace.
Loading Snacks.